Think we're live. Good afternoon, everybody. Well, if you're from the UK or Europe, it's afternoon. If you're from the US across the pond, it's probably your morning. But anyway, to begin with, just let me know where you are dialing in from if you can. And then we're going to get into it. Today's going to be a webinar with a little bit of difference, loads of really practical examples and some really good, particularly examples of winning in the conversation. Italy. Where? Yeah, I know who that is. I know who that is. Anybody else in the chat? In the chat, let us know where you're from. I'm going to start off. I'm from London. I'm in London. Okay. Martina. Hey, Martina, whereabouts in Italy? You're not the only one in Italy. We got Manchester. Jacob's in Norfolk. Anyone else? Anyone further afield than Italy? Perhaps not. Perhaps not. Well, once again, it's one of the hottest days of the year. I'm just looking through. We've got a whole bunch of people in here. Some of the usual suspects, some new people. So if you've not been to one of these before, then welcome. But another 30 seconds and we'll get into it. Ooh, Holly's from Hove. Posh. Not Brighton and Hove, just Hove. Cool. Okay. Right. Today, we're going to be talking about the conversation. We're going to be talking specifically about how to win citations, whether it's in AI mode, ChatGPT, Perplexity, and all the rest. So we're going to really dive deep into some amazing examples. I'm your host, John Earnshaw, the Chief Product Evangelist and co-founder at PyData Metrics, and I'm so excited for what's going to come up in the next 30 or so minutes. Now, usual rules apply. If you've got any questions, just drop them into the chat as we go. If I can, I'll answer them on the fly. If not, then I will always come back and follow up later. If you've got any reactions, any hearts or anything else, then drop those in as well. And we will get, thank you so much. Thank you. Because I'm on my own today. I've got no visitors. Nobody wanted to come and chat. But let's get straight into it. And we'll start with a poll. What's your biggest challenge in AI search today? Knowing what to track, knowing how we're performing, getting into the conversation, or all the above? Go nuts. Ooh. Knowing what to track. This is so interesting. Okay. All of the above is out there winning. Getting into the conversation. That's just been overtaken by knowing what to track. All these questions about prompts and conversations, there's so much confusion, but there won't be in about 30 minutes time. Okay, all the above. So anyone hasn't answered yet, just pop your answer in now. Wonderful, all the above. So knowing what to track, understanding how we are performing in the conversation, getting into the conversation in the first place. So it's perfect. You're in the right place. We're going to tick all of those boxes today. So let me get rid of that. Whoa, some sort of pulling out, share the result. I'm clicking buttons. I don't know what I'm doing. It's new technology. But anyway, there you can see the results. So cool. Okay, let's begin. Let's begin today's journey with a search. And I'm using this quote from Google's Sundar Pichai, who said journey, or rather the search journey, is now about exploration and discovery. It's no longer about keywords. It never really was. We were forced to compress what we wanted into keywords, but today we are liberated. And I love this quote because that's exactly what search is today. Let's start with a question. It's a question that's appropriate. I know that because we just ran the poll. Here it is. This is a question I asked Google AI mode. When it comes to measuring performance across AI surfaces, is it better to track prompts or conversations? And the reason why I asked this question is because it's a question I get asked about 5 times a day. And it's a question I have therefore gone away to do a lot of research on. It's a problem. It's a challenge that people are facing. And it's a question that's not only on our minds and inside my minds, but it's in the mind of all of our audiences. And just as SEO is starting to get crazy, This is the kind of question that we need answered. Let's see what the answer is. I kind of already know what the answer is, because having already understood that's a question, we put effort into creating content that doesn't just answer that, but goes beyond it. And here you can see, and you can try this yourself in AI mode. Pi gets 6 citation doorways. We got a video there top right. We got further citations. This result was down to the fact that we simply anticipated the question. We anticipated the question, we gathered the data, we answered it within our content ecosystem. Okay, it's a conversation, so it continues. And part of our job, part of everybody's job, part of your job, guys, is not just to understand the first question that people are answering or asking, but to anticipate the follow-ups and the journey of exploration and discovery that searchers are going on. Here's a follow-up question. Who is the best software provider when it comes to data on the conversation layer? I want to visualize my performance. And we all do. And I know you guys want to, because you answered that poll. So part 2 of that conversation, turn 2. When it comes, here's the answer. When it comes to analyzing and visualizing brand data strictly at the conversation layer rather than prompts, go to Pi Data Metrics. And then it goes on. We've got another video. Yeah, thank you for the heart. It blows my mind, but it shouldn't, because it just works. Anticipate the question, anticipate the follow-up. That's what we're doing. And you can see that's a different video from our ecosystem. We're not attempting to answer a prompt. We're attempting to get involved in a conversation at every step. So here's another question we get asked every day. People say it's possible to understand the exact prompts that searchers are using. I haven't changed the typos. I dictated this straight into AI mode. It was the third question I asked. Okay? And here's the result. Here's the result. We're still in the mix. Although our citation presence has reduced, it's not as strong as it was. However, we still have a very prominent, high-profile citation doorway to take people from that conversation into our content ecosystem. And after all, that's what we're trying to do, because we're all losing those clicks from classic organic SERP. We have to find some way of getting them back. And that way, ladies and gentlemen, is by getting into the conversation. Here's a final turn. And this is an appropriate question based on the way that people have conversations. The research is pretty clear. People want to use AI when it comes to refining and narrowing down the decisions, and they're happy to trust results. Remember, we are midway through a conversation. And as we go through that conversation, certainly we come to a natural point where we say this. Given all the information you've mentioned, lots of providers, give me one you think is going to meet my needs. It's the final turn of the conversation. If we're not there, it's all a waste. There's the top of it. You can see the prompt. Let's extend it down. Why Pi Data Metrics specifically meets your needs. And I know this is a very Pi example. I'm going to show you a very different one shortly of an incredibly successful B2B brand. But for now, that answer is actually really interesting. We can't control the entire synthesized content, but we can only control and influence our part in it. And all of those words there, some of those words come from the videos that we put out. And video is so important today in the conversation. So that's just an example I wanted to give you to begin with, to show you that it is actually quite straightforward to get into the conversations once you have identified them. So it was no accident. Number one, that first step, find the conversations that matter to our audience. And as an SEO, Every conversation I hear today is about AI search. How do I get in it? What do I track? What prompts to track? And in going to all the meetings and workshops with all of our clients, and indeed running webinars like this, I get a lot of questions. I don't ignore those questions. We take those questions and we answer them in our content ecosystem. And it works. And it works, we know, because we are opening daily more and more citation doorways in that conversation layer. You got to understand the problems your audience are trying to solve. And we know the problems we're trying to solve in SEO right now. One of those is, what prompts do I track, or should I even track prompts? Then we listen to all of the questions. We anticipate the next possible question. And that's what Liz Reed asked us to do several months back when she said, along with Sundar, it is not question and answer. It is a journey of exploration and discovery. Okay, quick question from Nicholas. Is it the same in other LLMs? Now, great question. Both, let's think, ChatGPT and Google AI mode, both are in a race. Both want to win the agentic race and create a walled garden into which you will remain and you will check out. So the principles still apply. They want to keep you in the conversation. If you want to get people out, you got to offer something better than the conversation. And speaking of, and I will show you some real examples shortly, not just from Pi, but from elsewhere. And speaking of better, speaking of content, speaking of making a big impact fast, I just want to show you this next slide on what we're seeing with video content in all of its forms, across all surfaces, across classic search, across AI conversations. That spiking line there, this one here, that is YouTube. And that is YouTube. And there's a reason why it's there. And there's a reason why winning businesses are creating not expensive YouTube content, but very often very quick, very short, very precise, and authentic videos that are simply opening doorways. And this is something that can be done very, very rapidly. And these searches were based on the affiliate market. So we've actually combined two lots of searches here, one for beauty products and one for tech and electricals. And I can tell you what, I was surprised. But when it comes to tech and electricals, you've got even more video content than anywhere else. How do I do this? How do I fix that? What is better than this? There is no simpler way to answer that and also demonstrate fast content than with video. So on that note of video, I've just got a second poll for you, which I'd love if you could answer. How important is it in your strategy? Because don't forget, so much of that content that you are seeing in AI mode, those words, those synthesized words, as we go on our conversation, they're taken from video. I keep seeing words that I've said in videos that are replicated within that conversation layer. Okay, let me look at the results. Okay, a small number so far. Not relevant, not interested. We want to build more, say over half of you. We're not sure what type of content to create, say roughly 30%. We're on top of it and we're not stopping, say 8%. Okay, so it does appear that video is in your minds as well, because there are very few of you who are saying it's not relevant. And even if you're saying it's not relevant, I wonder why it's not relevant. And perhaps if you could just drop into the chat why you mentioned that. I'd love to see it. But anyway, thank you for that. Biggest answer, we want to build more video content. And that's wonderful, because I'm seeing that working so powerfully well. Right, I'm just going to stop that, get rid of that. Okay. And then a final question on this part. And again, it is a question that we do get asked every single day. It's about prompts. Should we track prompts? And I'd say, yeah, tracking prompts is okay, but don't just track prompts. The benefit of tracking prompts is that you can You can repeat it. You can try and you can test regression, benchmarking, that sort of thing. But don't forget, we already know that even if you know somebody's prompt today, they're not going to remember that 23-word prompt in 5 minutes' time, let alone tomorrow. Is that previous prompt worth anything? No, but the intent behind it, the conversation it sits within, that's what matters. The limits of prompts, therefore, they don't represent audience behavior, which we know is a multi-turn conversation. A prompt is literally the start of the conversation. Why stop tracking there? And of course, you come up with a prompt, you come up with a synthetic prompt, and that, when compared with another similar one, will be vulnerable to duplication and overlap. So, with that in mind, how do we get into the conversation? How do we break open citation doorways? You've seen us do it with Pi content. And in the last webinar, we did an amazing example of how you can inject content to appear within 12 hours. Now, that is a tactic. That is not a strategy. We're talking strategy here. So we've got 4 practical steps before I get into an incredible example. Number 1, you got to build out the conversations. Thank you very much, whoever gave me the little hearts. Build out the conversations that matter. Don't build out prompts. Build out conversations. They can be broken down into prompts if you so wish. Now, once you can visualize performance of all brands in the conversation, well, the next step is to find those conversations where your presence is weak. And by presence, I mean brand mentions, owned and earned, as well as crucial citations and, of course, sentiment. But chiefly, your citation presence is low, and that's an important conversation. I would target that, and I would take the steps following this to get in there. And if I summarize that in 3 words, it's create deep, unique, and original content. And I'll give you some specifics on that shortly. And move fast. Conversations are fluid. Conversations come and conversations go. Unlike the old keywords that we used to track that were just stuck there, riddled with duplicates and close variants, etc. The world of the conversation is different, and we have to, in the words of Sundar Pichai, amidst this paradigm shift, guys, we've got to think differently. And that's why the conversation wins over an individual prompt. So we start with thinking about the journey that our audience would take. And remember, we're not trying to predict one perfectly worded prompt. We're identifying all the possible directions in which the audience's thinking will develop as they try and solve their problems. And I will again shortly show you. I'm trying to get ahead of myself, but I'm trying to rein it in. I'm going to show you some example conversations shortly. But essentially, we begin with the customer. What problem are they trying to solve, and what kind of journey are they going to go on? Okay, we get the real questions. And I was with a client last week, and I went to their lovely building. It's actually a university, and we talked about the kind of problems that prospective students were facing when they were looking for university courses to enroll on. What are the challenges? What if you're a single parent? What if you're older than the average student? How am I going to fit in? Will I be able to remember? So all of these are important questions. Important questions that your audience are looking for answers for as they go on their conversational journeys of exploration and discovery. So we take these questions, these problems, these challenges, and we arrange them in plausible sequences. And all the time, crucially, we are identifying the potential deeper questions, particularly the ones that our competitors have not answered. And today, more than last month, more than last year, more than ever before, I'm spending a lot of time actually looking at competitor content and asking the question, Why does that get the citation when mine doesn't? Mine got 1 citation last month. That one got 138. And you know what? When you look at the content, when you break away from the isolated view of how am I doing and why aren't I winning, to actually look at who is winning, then the answers are manifest. They will reveal themselves. So that's the thinking process. And we know that the average conversation length is 4.2 turns. Okay? 4.2. No prompt. Get the information and walk away. Prompt. Question another, and another. So let's visualize a 5-turn conversation. And there are 2 tracks in here. That first line is us. We might start at the beginning when we're asking the question in a strong presence. Mentions, citation. So the audience asks a follow-up. We predict the follow-up. We use technology to help with that, of course. We predict the follow-up. Conversational presence is strong. And then when the audience are trying to run comparisons, maybe they're asking a question about price or value for money. Our presence is weak. Maybe our citations have reduced to 1 or even 0. We can see our competitors are opening multiple citation doorways. That's where we need to take action. Okay? It's critical to understand not just where we are present, but the point at which we leave, or our audience leaves the conversation, or our brand vanishes from in front of the audience eyes. And when it comes to that final comparison, that final, which one should I choose? If you dropped out in the previous step, you, I'm afraid, are eliminated. So on this journey, we're interested, of course, in who gets mentioned and who's mentioning the mentioned brands. Is it them or is it others, owned or earned? There's so much we can learn from looking at this. So we have to find a way of visualizing this. And I'm going to show you that shortly. And I always come back where I see the point at which I leave the conversation, get into the competitor's content. And of course, you can use AI to help you do that. And you can run a pie checklist through that. Now, always if you're in doubt, and whenever I'm in doubt, I turn to Liz Reed and I listen to what she has to say. And Google recently did some research and found that there were 4 key types of content that are likely to attract clicks out of the conversation. This is what Liz recently told us. In-depth reviews, of course. Why wouldn't they? I want to read an in-depth review. And if you're a regular webinar attendee and you remember that conversation we analyzed a few months back about who wins when it comes to running shoes, well, it ain't Nike, Adidas, Reebok, On, or anyone. Yeah, they get mentions, but they get 0 citations. They get 0 citations because they fail to do the in-depth review that the incredible brand Runtastic do, and they own every citation doorway. Good for them. Anyway, original posts, unique perspectives, first-person analysis. And all of this is why LinkedIn, for example, does super well in the conversation. And you will often see when we do some analysis, just randomly, LinkedIn will do super well. And that's because people can get into LinkedIn, write long form without the constraints of getting it signed off. It is first-person content, and it works incredibly well. And here's a question. Here's a question, and it's a good, honest question to ask yourself once you are reading. It doesn't matter what content it is. It could be a product description. It could be a PLP. It could be a long form piece of content. But the simple truth is, if your content contains nothing that's uniquely yours, why is an AI going to cite you? Why is it even going to mention you, let alone cite you? It's not. Your brand, your content will literally be collapsed into nothing more than a set of attributes. It's going to go. All the fluff, all the nice words, they'll be off. So Liz Reed continues then. And I keep talking about depth, uniqueness, and originality, but sometimes it's hard to differentiate between those three things. So here I've kind of spelled it out. Depth, reward exploration, because search is a journey of exploration and discovery. Provide the evidence, provide the detail. Don't just answer the next question, but provide the evidence and the detail at every step of that, and give enough detail to be genuinely useful to the searcher. Uniqueness, first-party data, distinctive methodology. And people think, oh, how much uniqueness and originality gets edited out before the fluffy final version is created? I would say most of the depth, uniqueness, and originality gets left on the editorial floor. And we've got to stop doing that. Let's not be afraid to get into the weeds. And originality, new research, new analysis, first-hand experience. And first-hand is something I keep coming back to. Okay. I think we're dropping some stuff. Some stuff is being dropped in there. Again, if you guys have any questions as we go through, just drop them in. And at this point, I want to say thank you so much for nobody running away, despite this, again, being one of the hottest days of the year. So here, I'm going to build a little scorecard that we can run against every piece of content. And I want to tick every single one of these boxes. What can a reader learn here that they can't learn anywhere else? If the answer is nothing, you're not in. Forget mention, you won't get a citation. What evidence have we contributed? Did we just reel it off, or did we point to the source of that evidence? Was experience or expertise visible? And yet, of course, experience and expertise, yeah, those are the first two E's in double EAT. It's got to be visible. And I was talking with a client the other day, and we were talking about some of their content, and it definitely needs a bit of a refresh. And at that point, I would say, bring in another expert, somebody to come along. So not only have you got the original author of the content, but it was signed off, improved, and updated by John Earnshaw on this date. That is, honest to goodness, a tip that will get that content that's getting one citation a week to potentially dozens. It really is as simple as that. And I'll show you how it works in a moment. Have we answered all the likely follow-ups? I bet we haven't, because that takes effort, that takes hard work. But Google calls for a paradigm shift. SEO got easy, content got over-optimized. Goodness knows affiliate content was killed, so it was virtually not even worth reading. And let's not be fooled, it was never really helping us. It was helping the affiliate generate revenue. So that's duo content, deep, unique, and original. And that runs side by side, and I'll explain why they're separate in a moment with that fast content. First-hand, authentic, socially relevant, trusted. And this is why video is so important, because video is one of those formats where I can literally make a short-form video. This, okay, I'm trying to pick up some, okay, this hat is amazing. I can wear it, and it's it's a real person with that product that I can trust, because that's the voice of a real person, not just a brand telling me something. Increasingly, brands on their own, without any form of external evidence, are going to struggle to be trusted. And that's why off-site measures are so important these days. So we've talked about, and what about AI videos, Nicholas? Oh my God, yeah. AI videos, the apps, yeah. Okay, if a video says, I'm made by AI for this reason to do this, that's absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with that. When a video pretends to be real and authentic and is actually created by AI, that's just going to get burned. It'll be watermarked anyway. And you know the thing about Gen Z and being in a university only last week, you talk to Gen Z and they hate AI in all of its forms. Claude's just created a new algorithm to watermark its content. Google, of course, their AI content is watermarked. They invented that in London. So yeah, be very careful about that. But fast content, It just works. So you've got duo content and fast content. Why do you need them both? Well, duo makes content worth citing. Duo says to the AI, oh, if that person leaves the conversation, they're going to thank me and it's going to be good and they will get benefit. Fast content makes it human enough to trust and separates out anything that could be fluffy AI, because there is a spam update just rolling out and that's going to be killing a few people right now. So, yeah. I'm just checking any other questions. And what about AI video? Yeah. So yeah, let's not get into AI videos or any AI content without explicitly saying why AI was involved, where it was used, and what the purpose was. And then there's nothing wrong with that. So let's get into another example of citation doorways. And again, just to show you how it doesn't just work with pie content. And again, we showed an example last time, but I just want to bring in a brand that I love. I love these guys at Ricoh. Ricoh Europe, worked with them for years. And it's a huge global B2B business. And we had a workshop. We had a workshop a few weeks back. Everybody from Europe came, where we all sat around, and the topic of print security came up. Okay. And this is a big thing. A lot of businesses lose a lot of money through lax print security, particularly big businesses. So, with the experts in the room, with the people who talk to the customers from different countries, we identified 7 conversations that we actually built out in multiple landscapes across Europe. So at the start of this conversation, Ricoh Europe had no citation doorways on the left. No chance to get traffic out of the AI layer, out of the conversation, and into their content ecosystem. And then Ricoh as a brand was mentioning conversations over there on the right in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 conversations. 5 out of 7. But the key thing is, how can we get citations? So the process that we just went through, depth, uniqueness, and originality. Dial up content that worked last year, that worked 6 months ago, thanks to good old-fashioned classical authority. And classical authority, yeah, gets you onto page 1, gets you position 1, but there is no guarantee that that authority will even get you into the conversation, let alone take you through it, all the way through to where it matters. So implement, do what we talk about, and instantly, within days, Ricoh Europe moves up. And honestly, the team working there have embraced conversational search like nobody else. Like nobody else. So I just wanted to give them a shout out. Presence in multiple conversations on topics they know their B2B audiences are having right now. They are in there, they are maintaining presence throughout the conversation. And down there on the right, Ricoh Europe, the correct brand, is now being mentioned. They've doubled their brand real estate by drilling down on some content. One in particular, and here are some experts. This is Duo in action. I love this. Okay, they start the article by talking about what's changing, because everybody knows there are changes. They have lots of good links. They've got percentages. They've got facts. They've got figures. They point to the EU Cyber Resilience Act. And then they detail these 4 steps of what you need to do next. And they do it brilliantly. And you know what? When I read that content, I actually get the feeling they're trying to help me. They are helping me solve my problem. It ticks all the boxes. And it's kind of magical. And even at top right, they had the person who wrote it. I didn't put his name on here. That his title, a link to his LinkedIn profile as well. So we can see it's a real person. Firsthand, authenticity, socially relevant. It's on LinkedIn. And I already showed you before that LinkedIn is doing so well across citations. Because again, it is deep, unique, and it's original when it's done well. So the end result, we went from 0 citations for conversations that mattered into 108 citations. 108. And on one day, an explosion. The dotted line is the average. So simply by getting in the mind of the customer, understanding the problem they're trying to solve, shaping and creating and adapting content to go one step further than the competition, because what worked last year doesn't work today, guys. It just doesn't work today. You've got to prove it. All that cutting room floor, all the editorial content that we took out because it was too wordy, I say, if it's relevant, bring it back. And on the right-hand side here, we can actually start to see how our site is working. And I love the fact that we are not bringing in content from other countries. You know, this is perfect. We got our insights content working incredibly, particularly in that dark purple bar, because that's a conversation relating to the changes that Microsoft are making right now, which is important to every B2B business. Their content is killing it. It's absolutely incredible. And we can see there the overall movement up 22 positions in a week. That, ladies and gentlemen, is how you do it. These guys are phenomenal. So really, just before we go into a few questions and things, I wanted to map this journey out. And I just wanted to say, you've got to just try this. And if anyone is totally lost, if anyone out there think, I'm not going to type it in there, I'm just totally lost, then just reach out. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. Reach out, just connect up, because this process right now is too easy not to implement. And it begins with understanding how you're performing. So we map the journey. We begin with the problems that our customers are facing. We identify the conversations. We visualize them, and you can see how you do that in Pi. Okay. We find the exit. Where are we dropping out? Identify the candidate content that's only just scraping by with the odd citations. Build in depth, uniqueness, and originality. Ensure that we have elements and fast. Now, here's the thing. For some businesses, they can go all in on both. For others, they will go stronger on one or stronger on the other. It's up to you. But I would say get as many elements of both in. And then connect your ecosystem together. There's more than just your website. Social assets are absolutely critical to this mix. So it goes beyond there. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. But what the AI thinks of your brand is made up by your entire ecosystem. Less and less and less by your actual website, but it's still critical. And finally, that bottom line there. Win the conversation. Why would you not want to win the conversation? Instead, why would you want just to win the first answer? I say no, go for the entire conversation. So as we wind to an end of this, got a final poll. I believe it's going to pop up now. If you want to find, you just want to talk, you just want to talk about this, then freaking click that and I'll be at the other end of the phone or the video call. If you want to find out how we can help you, map this out, visualize conversations, tell you how you're performing, identify gaps, see where you are leaving, then just hit the yes button. Otherwise, don't worry. You're already a Pi customer, then amazing, amazing. So I think, can I end that poll yet? I don't know. I'll leave it running. Fill your answers, and then I'm going to give you some very exciting news in a second. Something so exciting that it keeps me up at night and keeps me in my shed till very late. Okay, thank you very much for that. Thank you. I am going to shut that. I hope I'm not going to break anything on the back end. I've just got rid of that. Now, coming up, we have a webinar on September the 24th. September the 24th. And this really is a moment I've been waiting for 10 years, ever since I stood on stage in Dallas at State of Search in Texas and said this. And if you heard it before, I apologize, but this is what I said. Every digital interaction that should be a conversation will become one. And that doesn't just mean search has become a conversation. No, you can now talk to Pi through our MCP layer. And I'm going to show you next month the most incredible, mind-blowing conversations that you can have with Pi Data. And I guarantee this is transformative. It's changed my life for the better. I'm not kidding. It's life-changing. Life-changing. Nothing short of that. So get that one in your diary. Now, I know it's hot. It's freaking hot in this shed. But if you do have any questions, guys, just drop them in there. If you're too shy to ask them here, then hook up on LinkedIn and you can always ask a question there. And I do generally check it once a day. But last chance for any questions. Oh, yeah, there's a registration there for the webinar. I'm just going back to see if I've missed any questions. Is it the same? I don't think there are. What about AI videos? No. I think we're good. So after 41 minutes, if there are no final questions, I just want to say, just a couple of things to finish off with. This is a paradigm shift. Sundar, Google, Liz Reed told us explicitly it's time to do things differently. Change what we've done before. Search behaviors change phenomenally. We need to ensure that what we do as SEOs keeps up with that. And that means moving away from the keyword, not into the prompt, but into the conversation. I'll leave it there. Any other questions, please shout. Otherwise, thank you as always. Thank you, guys. Thank you as always for attending on another one of the hottest days of the year. I really appreciate it. If you're not connected, link up on LinkedIn and all of that. And don't be afraid to ask any questions. You wake up in the middle of the night, you're sweating about prompts, just message. I'll be there. So thank you very much. See you at the next one.